my family, my parents brought us up very closely, and so I always see a lot of families where siblings don't get along, and I find that kind of like, for me, it's odd. Yeah, so my daughter is one of these feminists who doesn't believe in, I gotta treat my son different to her.
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting watching soccer with him, she'll want to be. And at one stage, she became a bigger soccer fan, and both of us together.
Oh, wow. You've worked across various industries, doing great things, but how do you switch off?
So I don't think you can totally switch off. I think, yeah, if you're doing a job you don't enjoy, you want to switch off. But if it's passionate, it's part of your DNA, it's very hard to switch off. So.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Clock.
How do you deal with stress? How do you handle that?
Coping mechanism that I have is I go for a run.
Manage stress by obviously being moments like this. Directly saying I'm going off the clock.
Just even a night out.
I'm listening to my favorite music. I go into one of the studios at the gym and I dance.
Sip cocktails and rest and just do nothing.
I ground myself spiritually.
The right amount of stress is good. It helps you push boundaries. So it makes you have a sense that you are alive.
And then just having fun. I mean, there's nothing that beats good conversation and a laugh with the kids and a glass of wine.
Keshan, welcome to Off the Clock podcast. Thank you very much for making the time today in this rainy Friday afternoon. The way we're going to do this is we just want to give you a little bit of time for you to introduce yourself the way you do it best. I mean, I can introduce you, but I think you can do it better than us. And then we'll move into some questions. Me and Tsepiso would really like to know you, especially how you get off the clock. But also you've done very interesting things in terms of the business. You've been to hell and back in my experience, the way I've seen you fix businesses and turn them around. So we also today would like to know a little bit about that. But first, who are you?
Sure. And are we talking from a business and personal point of view, or are you just curious?
Both.
Okay, so I'm Keshan Pillay. I was born in Pretoria, Gauteng. No, I actually wasn't born in Marabastad. I was born actually in Lodium. Lodium, next to Atteridgeville, and and Voortrekker Hoogte. So Lodium became very famous when they fired the missiles into Voortrekker.
I had the story.
It was fired from Lodium, but Lodium was also known for a place where things fell off the truck. They used to always say, if you're looking for things, gray copper, you go to Lodium. so it had very different reputations to it. So grew up. So I'm always, it's something I've always quite try and avoid is when people, first thing they see me, they think I'm from Durban. So they say, you from Durban? I said, no, I'm not from Durban. I'm from Johannesburg. So I regard Lodium as part of Johannesburg.
Some people think all Indians are from Durban.
Oh, a lot of people think all Indians are from Durban.
Yeah.
So it's a natural thing. But I'm very defensive of that fact that I'm not one of the normal, one of the messes as such. Grew up, went to university in Durban. Funny enough, I landed up studying at University of Durban, Westville. But I come from a family of who's been quite politically activist. So obviously I grew up from my great-grandmother to my grandfather and grandmother that was quite active, and then followed through with that. So I'm one of 5 brothers.
No sister?
No sisters. We effectively, and I'm the dead middle. So they say I have middle child syndrome. I don't know what that means, but so I'm the middle child, one of 5. My parents was they pushed us academically. So all 5 of us are basically got qualifications, and all in different fields, amazingly enough. So
I met your brother, Kuben.
Yes.
Is he older than you or younger?
No, so you met my younger brother, Anben.
Yeah, Anban.
Anban, yeah.
GP down the road here.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he's younger than me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got two older, two younger.
Okay.
And as I said, two in the medical field, one by trade law, and then went into business. I've got a finance background, and basically, but I love the investment space. So I spent a lot of time in that space. And then my youngest brother, which is in the tech space. So yeah, so we're five brothers. Very close as a family. You know, we spend a lot of time together. We always there looking out for one another. So my family, my parents brought us up very closely, and you know, so I always see a lot of families where siblings don't get along, and I find it kind of like, for me, it's odd. Because you know, I've never grew up with that, where we are very close and we're always there for one another. And the difference is in our family, you know, we've got I got a lot of sisters or sister-in-laws, you know, and the fact is that doesn't come in and affect us as the brothers. So we're quite close as a family.
So, I mean, you know, you married, right, with kids.
Correct.
And being an Indian, I mean, it's always fascinating. I want to know if your marriage was arranged, or you know, you kind of found your wife yourself. Or
yeah, no, so yeah, no, so funny enough, I mean, I think my generation and my generation after me, arranged marriages was not something that would happen. I think in my parents' time probably, or even my great grandparents' time, but
so it was not even facilitated. I mean, there's a difference between arranging and facilitating.
Yeah, so nothing of that sort. Funny enough, it was. I mean, you know, my brother was studying. The oldest brother was studying in the U.S. He met a Mexican. He married a Mexican. So even we've married basically different. You know, even in the Indian community, you got different, basically, religions. We marry differently. I actually married similar religion to me, but I'm divorced now.
Okay.
But my previous wife, I met at university, and then we dated for a few years. Well, not childhood, of university. So it wasn't from. So it was more student. And I have two kids. Both are grown up. So my son, who's older, is 28, and my daughter is 23. And so also they sort of doing their own stuff, very different to what I'm doing.
Empty nest.
Well, I don't know, totally empty nest because I got no one. so it's not emptiness syndrome.
And what is it like having a daughter, having come from a family of just boys?
So interesting enough, look, I grew up with a lot of female cousins. Okay. So and because in Lodium we were quite close as families, it didn't feel like I was missing a sister. Okay. So and even today, you know, a lot of my female cousins are kind of like, I've always seen them as my sisters. So, but the interest is in the challenge, I think, is very much is around that my daughter's a lot like me. We clash a lot. Because we just like, you know, it's like two positives, and two positives just kind of bounce off one another, but we feed off one another well. Whereas my son is more like his mother. And so, yeah, that's the dynamics I need to kind of work around. Is try to navigate, you know, someone like me and someone like the mother, which is always a challenge. Yeah.
And then how do you spend time with them? Is it also very different in terms of what you do with your son versus your daughter?
Yeah. So my daughter is one of these feminists who doesn't believe in, you know, I gotta treat my son different to her.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I'm sitting watching soccer with him, she'll want to be. And at one stage, she became a bigger soccer fan, and both of us together.
Oh, wow.
And so, but you know, they're at this age now. I mean, I did a lot with them. I think in my earlier days, I worked quite hard, and so the weekdays were a bit difficult. But you know, vacations, we used to travel a lot. So both my kids traveled quite a lot, extensively, to the extent that I'm very comfortable that wherever they go in the world, you know, they can do it on themselves. They know how to navigate other areas or other countries quite easily.
Nice.
So that was one way of bonding. And then I think, sort of kind of trying to play a role where I can, or similar interests. Sort of like movies is one thing. We're all big Star Wars fans.
Oh, nice.
So we'll watch, the full series of Star Wars. We can talk about those things. So I think it's kind of different things. But interesting enough, my daughter is now in Korea. So she did a postgrad degree and then decided to take a gap year to go teach English. So she's gone for a year to South Korea. I was a bit concerned, like that for going there on her own. I think the one thing is obviously South Korea is quite a safe country, so that you take comfort from that. But the fact is that going out there and basically language is an issue because she's trying to learn, but she's picked it up well.
Okay.
And I went and saw her last year, and I was quite impressed how she has navigated that space and has really fitted in and kind of settled down quite quickly. I don't know if I would have been able to do it. I think I can't really be alone. I got to be around people all the time. And if you're around people and you can't communicate, it's a problem. So,
yeah.
But she's navigated that space quite well. So
Okay, that's good. And when you said you would travel with your kids quite frequently, what is like the best place or the most memorable place that you guys travel to?
I mean, when I sit back and I talk to them, there's many places. I mean, we've done from Disney World to to Hong Kong or thing. And funny enough, I mean, because we went to places, different stages of their lives. So obviously interests were very different.
Yeah.
I'm very keen to kind of do a trip with them now, and I'm trying to convince them to do something because I think, you dealing with 3 adults now versus basically an adult and kids, what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah.
But I think, there's lots of fantastic memories we can have, but I think what stands out for us is our trip to Vietnam. So we did it from north to south, and we traveled the country through. And that was actually because I think they both were sort of. My daughter was just about close to, I think, matric, and then my son was already in university, so they were kind of adults already. And so we navigated that trip as kind of adults, and it was a brilliant trip actually.
Okay,
So
cool.
Very interesting because she decided to go to Vietnam alone and she left us.
Well, I went with a friend.
Okay.
But yeah, it was like, it's literally like going to the other side of the world, it feels, because it was like 24 hours of just being in the air. And yeah, it was such a cool trip. I enjoyed it. But I only explored the north.
The north.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hanoi,
Okay.
yeah.
So you didn't come through the villages and the farms and
Yeah, no, we did explore a bit, but we didn't we didn't do too much of that. We're predominantly in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was good.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, as I said, I don't think there's. I love traveling, but at the end of the day, you travel. I don't think there's anywhere else I want to live besides South Africa.
No, same. Same.
So
I have
you
the
can
same
go
sentiment.
and after a week or two, you can say, okay, it's time to go back home.
Yeah.
I always kiss the ground when I get back and say, gee, this country is phenomenal, and so I wouldn't trade it for anything. And so, yeah, that's kind of, so it's good to get those experiences. But I also think, I haven't done enough local exploration. I mean, besides the normal cities that you do, but, funny enough, my brothers did a hike last year through KZN. It was one of these glamping type hikes. And, when the photos you come in, there's such beauty that's out there that you're not exposed to because, we kind of, city dwellers, and that's a problem. So, not that I can live long in the bush. I mean, I need the technology and I need sort of concrete structures around me as well. So I'm very much a city dweller, but I can do a day or two in the country.
In the country, yeah.
So, I mean, I want to come back to, your marriage because you said, it was not arranged. Yes. And we always ask people, our guests here, how they met each other. Yours we know by now that it was not arranged. How did you meet the mother of your children? And then can you just unpack a little bit about
So I met her at university. She was a student. She basically was previously to come into University of Durban Westville. She was at Rhodes University,
Okay.
and then she transferred into University of Durban Westville.
Just for you.
Not just for me, but funny enough, although you say it wasn't the range, there's family we know, so common family.
Yeah.
Okay. And more through marriage than through blood.
Okay.
Okay. And I probably seen her at functions or whatever the case, because I walked past her and I recognized her, and I went and asked her, aren't you family too? And she said yes. And she said, oh, somebody told me I must look you up when I get here because I'm there. So that sort of started the conversation or broke the ice as such. And because I was part of the SSC as well, so I was quite known on campus. She was obviously trying to settle in. So yeah, she spent a lot of time with me in the earlier days before I asked out and started dating her. So we were friends before we became a couple.
Well, like 6 months?
Probably less, actually. I think maybe 3 months.
Oh, it's just fast track.
It was fast tracked, yeah. So I didn't want to miss the opportunity at that point. so yeah, I basically, so it probably was 3 months before I asked her out, yeah.
So, being an Indian friend of mine, sometimes one can be very ignorant when it comes to food, right? Indian are very foodie people, spicy stuff and all that.
Yeah.
I always assume that you can cook. Can you really cook?
No. So I'll tell you what's typical of an Indian. I'm a typical Indian man.
Okay.
That's not in the kitchen. So I never learned. And funny enough, I mean, if you think about, I didn't grow up with sisters, so I grew up. My mom did everything from, sort of basically all the cooking in the house. We never really did that, so we were spoiled.
Oh, really? I mean, one would think that 5 boys. You learn the tricks of the kitchen fast.
Yeah,
we did in my house. Because
so we didn't. So
really,
so I guess
believe it or not.
Oh, so you didn't know about that?
I didn't know.
You should test this thing.
Yeah, no. I think you would like for it to remain hidden.
So and then I think it's also a bit of a fallacy. I mean, I think we grew up. I mean, I grew up eating curries basically probably 4 or 5 times a week. We used to kind of have a curry at least, probably every day, and maybe an off day now and then. But that was the old way. I think as we kind of evolved, and as we grew, like even when in my marriage, I mean, we probably have curry twice a week, and that's a lot.
So I mean,
so dietary changed. Okay.
Incidentally, talking about curry. Yesterday I had that I invested in a bakery business down the road here in Kalami.
Yes.
I had a Woolworths guys, Woolworths food guys visiting us, and we're just showing them to the bakery, different departments. But then we're talking about innovation. Even in bakery, you innovate, you bring new products and all that. And the innovation that they've been doing was we've done this bread for bunny chow.
Yeah, okay.
So
that's not innovation. I mean,
for us, and Willis was like, "Wow, we actually innovate. We want to introduce bunny chow in because we're seeing that more than 50% of our customers call it black, Indian colored, in that way. So we need to appeal to their dietary requirements and introduce that. I mean, that they've done amadombolo and amagwenya in Woolworths as well. So to try and deal with them. But I mean, just seeing that the bunny chow bread was quite a great moment for me. Yes.
So funny enough, I mean, I think it's a concept that can work. I'm not so sure how much, and I'm no expert on basically how dietary requirements are and how much of curries, new generation Indians are eating. But like Woolworths provides rotis with curries in them, right? So
but it's like light, right? Some Malungu style.
Yeah, but I think more and more people are going off bread. Not that that's good for your business.
That's not what we're seeing. We see more people
Eating
into
bread.
bread because, I mean, you look like a real hardcore businessman. You don't follow the trends. Now we're bringing in the veggie style breads, more healthy breads and styles.
Okay.
So people are eating a lot of bread, but the healthy side, rye, low GI or something, not the industrial bakery
Yeah.
loaves and all that. So I mean, we're seeing different things. Maybe we bias, we get lost into that, but at the moment we vegetable type pumpkin or spinach type bread and healthy stuff. That's what is coming to you soon.
No. So maybe let me qualify. I think you're
Yeah.
right. The traditional. So
Yeah.
the fact is the unhealthy stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, you're right. I mean, most of us today are eating, low GI rye bread,
Yeah.
which is healthier. So there is probably that
Sourdough.
trend. Sourdough is
Yeah.
another one. But if I look at it, so I mean, yeah, I guess it's the contents more because we're just becoming a lot more health conscious on that side there. But like I'm trying to avoid it. I mean, even rice. Rice is basically used to be a meal. Growing
Staple,
up, I
yeah.
used to eat every day. I'll eat rice probably twice a week. I try and eat a lot of salads more. But it's, as I said, it's changing trends, right? That happens. So, but coming back to your earlier question, so while I say my dietary has changed, what hasn't changed is my taste for spiciness. Okay, so I can eat basically, a sort of a piece of breast chicken. Okay, but I must add chili onto it or add Nando sauces onto it, so to make it more
chopped chili.
spicy. Exactly. So that hasn't been lost because I find like even when I was traveling to Italy, I find like it's very bland. Okay, and I don't find this, so it's got no taste to it, and maybe quite good or whatever the case is. So I haven't lost that aspect of my genetic upbringing. There needs to be some spiciness to it.
Yeah, I mean that's the spiciness that he's talking about. Is tried to have a chow with him. Was like literally sweating, yeah, dripping because it's so hot and like. But he's home.
He's
That's
fine. He's happy.
that's his
So-
type of thing. That's like.
But it's
so
because it's
hot.
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I mean, there are people I can tell you, and again, it's that fallacy around all Indians can eat hot stuff. I mean,
Is that true?
No, I think it's absolutely a fallacy because I've got brothers who I can eat something and say no, it's fine, and they sweating as well. So it's not all Indians can eat hot stuff. I think the point is it's how you acclimatize your body, and so the more if you eat it regularly, you get used to it. Okay. But it's not, I mean, I think there are a lot of basically other races who can eat more hot than some Indians. So yeah, so don't get caught in that.
Well,
Stereotyping.
Indians still take the trophy, right?
Yeah. So
you wanna go?
No, I just actually wanted to make a comment on that, the point around the food trends, that I think there's just a diversification of like what people want to eat these days. I think people usually it's like you eat what's at home, and then if you don't eat what's at home, you go to McDonald's or you go to a fast food or and I think that there's just like this new trend around having access to convenient, quick, ready-made but homely
Yes.
meals. Like people at work know me for having that chicken biryani that is at Woolies. There's also like umlenkwa. There's so many
Yeah.
things that are just
Free
so
range.
yeah. So I just think it's more about just the diversification of what you can have access to and is convenient to just prepare very quickly. Because I think that's just another interesting thing. I also have an Indian friend, and she was just talking about how many times she makes traditional Indian food. And
Yes.
I was like, that's like every day. That's like me eating pap and chicken or like really traditional food every day. And it was just surprising at how consistently you eat like your traditional meals, which is I think is nice, but maybe I don't know.
no. So look, I mean, but I'm not so sure it's healthy.
Yeah.
And if I look at a lot of the older Indian generation had a lot of health issues, whether it's diabetes, whether it's basically high cholesterol, and it's all going to do with dietary requirements, right? So I do think the fact is, the more educated we become, I also think there's a shift to your point around the convenience. Historically, typically the males worked, so the females were at home, cook a proper meal, put it together. Now it's everyone's rushed, so our lives have just become a lot more faster. So therefore, there's a gap in the market where businesses are seen to provide, and you'd rather, and today, I mean, I had a conversation with somebody the other day about if you actually cost what it costs you to make a meal, it's cheaper to buy the ready-made meals, okay? Because you can't produce such a small quantity. Okay.
Yeah.
You produce and then you sit and you got wastage and so if you actually run the cost of what, it's not cheaper to make your meal at home for yourself. Health is a different issue, and obviously what goes into it, and the preservatives and that there. But it's definitely, it's more cost effective to buy a ready-made meal. And I'm talking ready-made meal versus fast foods, right? I mean, that's also a difference. I mean, that's just.
But I mean, your friend Greg will argue that you can still make good food fast. So so it's and I mean we're talking about salad and natural stuff here and there. You can make that fast as well.
Yeah, but most of our fast foods are very processed foods, right? So so again, and the debate is, and I'm not saying all fast foods are basically
processed,
but the fact is that I mean that's just kind of and you kind of think about it in terms of how we used to wait, and I remember growing up we used to have seasons for things. This was whether it was lychee season, peach season. Now you can get those things throughout the year. And how are they growing it so quickly?
No, but apart from the growing, because I'm very much into food stuff, more on the business side than the cooking or whatever, is with everything else being imported from say Europe or Northern Hemisphere, stuff get preserved and brought here that you don't feel like you're out of season for anything.
Yes.
Which is I mean until couple of years ago I got involved into the bread and the food. Like, how can a bread have a 6-month shelf life?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's enzymes and stuff that you do to put it together and frozen bake, par bake, and keep the stuff for 6 months, and therefore you can make it here and sell it in Russia if it's a special recipe.
But if someone does it at home, they're not gonna get, and if they're just using pure natural ingredients, they're not gonna get the lifespan out of that product.
Yeah, I mean the home stuff is make and enjoy now. It's not for mass production type of a thing. So which is why I mean I think preparing meals for now is good at home. But if you want to prepare for the whole country, then you think about shelf life and all those things.
Longevity.
Yeah. So enough with food. We just want to know a little bit about your business side, because it just fascinates me how your career has evolved over time, especially as somebody that I've seen sitting in boards, and not just any position in board, either chairing a committee or chairing the board. And you either end up in trouble or in the driving seat. So
it wasn't like that in the beginning. So if I go back, and so I started, post my articles, I started working for the National Union of Mine Workers, NUM.
Yeah.
At that point, NUM was the biggest and strongest trade union in the country. And so, and to sort of just clarify that, people misunderstand, COSATU is not a union. COSATU is an affiliate of unions. So people think COSATU is the biggest trade union in the country, and the fact is not. COSATU was made up of affiliates, which was the various unions. And NUM was
it's
strong.
Like an association of unions.
Correct. And NUM was quite very strong at that point. and so also I think I was fortunate in a sense from a timing perspective, because when I started at NUM, which was 1990, it was just basically the change, the regime change that was taking place. So the unbanning of the ANC, the release of Nelson Mandela that came through, and then basically we went into black economic empowerment. So where the economic changes were starting to happen. And I was sort of there in the beginning.
Just a joke again. Yesterday, I went to the bakery with Woolworths.
Yeah.
So the staff was excited. They make this black bun. They call it a BEE bun. So I'm sure you've seen it at Rocco Mamas and places like that.
Yeah. Okay, I have.
So it's like now we're making a red bun or a rainbow bun.
Okay.
It's like this is innovation.
Okay, so innovate. Can you make an Afrikaner refugee bun?
Not interested in spending any energy on that.
Okay. Yeah. So I moved from the trade union. I joined so there was the first two union investment companies that was formed, which was Suck to Investments and then the Mine Workers Investment Company. Or the Suck to Investment Group, and then the Mine Workers Investment Company. So that was established in 1995. I went across really to assist from the union side to oversee the setup and the structure of that. And then I joined them full-time 1998. And then that's when I started getting into a lot of transactions on behalf of the investment company. So led a lot of BE transactions. And because we became investors in these various companies, somebody had to go onto the board to look after that.
Yeah,
so my first kind of board role was I was at 29 years old, and so I got appointed to this board, and I needed to effectively, show my weight around that. So I started obviously learning, watching, observing quite quickly.
So you have
developed
a board director at 29.
At 29 was my first.
Wow.
Just let us in how, unpack that for us in terms of what was going through your mind.
So it was very interesting because I felt, coming to this board very intimidated, because you think these are sort of CEOs, chairmen, big businessmen, so seasoned players in this, and you come in. Baldness, gray hair people, and so when I got appointed to this board, I needed to basically, show my worth on my own, and so I used to do a lot of reading up. I used to basically make sure I'm well prepared. So when you get a board pack, I started reading the board packs, and then started effectively, asking a lot of questions. So in that way, I started gaining a lot of confidence because people started saying, "Okay, I know what I'm talking about." But I was also very observant. I'd sit back and I'll watch and I'll learn because I say, there's these seasoned professional business people, and so don't go and try and act arrogant. Don't go and try and act like you know it all. Sort of be humble. Pick up and learn, and so I learned on the job very much from a governance point of view, and I carried that through and sort of as I developed. But at one stage, I was probably sitting in my heydays, sort of in the 2000s. I think I had sort of like 14 board roles, from sitting as a non-executive director. Most of them were non-executive director or committee members or board committee members, whether it's a remuneration committee, audit committee, a risk committee, transformation committee. So I started, and then you started learning, and the nice thing about it is it was diverse businesses. So whether you sat on a media company to a banking to a vehicle tracking company to a IT company to exactly. So I started getting diverse experience in the sense of sitting on these different boards, and I started sort of learning quite well. And it comes back to, although you may be producing something different, the basics are very similar. In terms of you got to make sure, and it's very much around having a strong financial grounding. to any business success. Okay,
You're making money.
making money. and so to the second part of your question, as it evolved and I started getting into, and as I started getting ahead in my career, I started basically taking roles, and specifically what you refer to is I was appointed as a chairman of a bank. So I basically got onto the board through obviously confidence with other board members and shareholders. I was then appointed as the chairman of the board, and the bank is quite and it's complex because it's not as easy because you got to go to because it's a regulatory entity.
Yeah.
You got to go through a number of regulatory requirements, and I think obviously all my other board experiences probably gave me the credibility to be where the Reserve Bank then approved my appointment as a chairman.
How did that go through? I mean,
so it was it's a whole application process. So the board obviously nominated me, but it was subject to obviously Reserve Bank approval.
Well, they check if your relationship with money is good, to approve you to be chair of the bank. What do they check?
So they'll check your competency, your skill set, your any basically issues, your good standing. So I mean the point is it's quite encompassing. I mean I think maybe if I just step back, one of the previous when I used to sit on a gaming company, Piermont Global, and that's gaming licenses. When you go to probity there, and that's very strict. They go through detailed requirements, information about you. You got to put them in this. You fill out like 150 pages documents of everything. They screen your whole life on that side there.
What are they looking for?
So I think it's looking at integrity.
Ethical lapses,
basically. Are you sort of are you in good standing with the regulatory authorities? And I find like it's actually quite stringent. That's where the Reserve Bank as well. And you got to understand because you're managing, public funds. It's important that you in terms of that you're not appointing someone there that's basically doesn't understand the requirements, doesn't have good integrity. They can lose a lot of that money. And we've had cases, it's not foolproof because you've had people appointed. VBS is a typical example. Okay. You've had a board there. I don't want to go into that detail, but okay. So in my chairman role, basically whilst in there, I got to work closer with management, and somehow I took my role a lot more serious. So I didn't just attend quarterly board meetings. I would engage, and as a chairman, you have the right to engage with management as often as you need to and you want to. So I did that. I kind of tried to stay close to business, and I'll come back to some of my realizations that you actually don't know. There's a lot you don't know that you think you know, which will come through. And then we basically the departure of the CEO just post COVID left a vacancy in the board, in the company management, and the board then certain directors approached me to say, will you not look at stepping in? You kind of understand the business better, stepping in an interim role.
So you're saying the departure? I mean, we're talking about chairman here. You let him go. I mean, in the COVID departure, chairman. Just step by step on
yeah.
That,
so the businesses was going through a number of challenges, and I think the point was that I think the pressure so the departure of the CEO, he found a new opportunity. And there wasn't sufficient succession planning done in the business. And if you look at even today, if you kind of look at from a bank point of view, it's challenging. I mean, you look at just the shifting of bankers today.
Yeah.
The new head of Nedbank came from ABSA. The head of basically ABSA now came from Standard Bank. So the fact is that, and you would think you'd groom people internally. but yeah, I mean, the fact is that it's not easy to take those roles, and sometimes maybe you're too deep in that you're not seeing the wood from the trees, and therefore, and I think it's not a bad thing coming from to bring in management from external, because they can come with a different set of lenses. Otherwise, bringing someone internally, sometimes they do the same thing expecting a different result and you don't. Okay, so then I stepped into that role. What was an eye opener for me was what we were fed as a board was what not was happening on the ground. So as I got involved on an executive level, I started realizing, geez, there's a lot more going on here that you're not aware at the board level.
Even as chair.
Even as chair, because again, you're not full time. You're not there on a day-to-day basis. So as chair, you may be spending additional, maybe 10 to 20% more than any other non-executive director.
Yeah.
Because you have that responsibility. But again, it's not. I mean, I know, and it's a difficult one because the fact is that this whole debate, and I see this in boards, is around you don't want to pay directors because you don't see it as a value add, and if people are becoming more sort of involved in the business, management feel you're micromanaging them. Okay, so you got to find that right balance between basically governance and oversight versus micromanage, because again, you want independent directors, you want oversight, you want challenge, you want governance. If they're too involved in the business, the fact is, then what happens is they become part of the management team. Okay.
So what are you saying? I mean, the whole board thing is a scam. I mean,
no, I don't think it's a scam. I think it's important, but I do.
But you don't know enough, until things go wrong.
Yeah,
like terribly wrong. Look, I mean, I'm talking from an informed position as well. I'm just engaging you as a peer here to try and, come to some sort of a way forward in terms of how best to do it. It's like you saying, sometimes when you get too close to want to know what is happening, the executive management feel you're breathing on their neck.
Yeah.
They can smell your breath now. You're interfering. It's not healthy. Yes. Back off. But I mean, you need to know enough to be able to, do your role as somebody's oversight role. To be able to steer the company, especially as a chair, to steer the company in the right direction.
So I mean, there's many ways you can look at it, and I think when you sit back, so you get professional directors who are paid to do this work, and you get some who do it because they got an investment and they're protecting their investment interest, or you get some basically they do it maybe because they feel they're doing it as a favor, or they're assisting someone on that basis there. But I think what boards do need and is that we mustn't be scared to pay professional fees to board directors, because the fact is that if you pay peanuts, you're going to get the type of directors. You're going to get people that are not there because
you can say it, monkeys.
You're going to get monkeys. So, but that's a reality. So if I'm sitting and I'm not really remunerated correctly for my time, I'm going to give it what's due. Okay. Although you from a director's responsibility point of view, that's starting to change now, because before shareholders and basically stakeholders were not holding directors accountable. Okay, so if a company collapsed, you said, well, okay, management was at fault. Okay, but the reality is that you've got this oversight that should be taking a much more bigger role. So I think it's time to find, yes, you've got your day-to-day stuff, but I think management, and I've seen this time and time again, if you back off and you're too far from the business, management will run circles around you. Okay, and they'll be doing things, and basically they'll show you what they want you to see only. Okay, and the point is, you think it's all fantastic and hunky-dory. Let's fast forward. I mean, I'll give you an exact example. I mean, the amount of stuff we've fallen in. That's my current role that I'm sitting in
where you are now today,
in the cosmetics business. Yeah. When I was sitting at the board, this business was, it's a great business, making good money, doing well. As we're starting to unpack and start drilling deeper, there's major problems. So, things are, business is funded incorrectly. I mean, the business is a cash business, but it's got no cash in the business. So there, it's tied up in stock. Or the fact is that your taxes are not up to date. You're not so these are things that are not coming. Where at some point, if action is taken against this company, the board is not abdicated from its responsibility and say, well, I didn't know, management didn't tell me this was happening. Okay. It's easy to say that, but the reality is that you should be taking more of an interest. So you should be asking and getting through versus saying, I'm going to do this here. Come and tell me how, or I need to manage this particular manager or executive. Okay. So I'm saying is that no, you have to try and find, and I don't know what's the right balance. Where I think it's just management needs to be more acceptable of the fact that you are going to take a more active role, but not running the business. Okay, I can't sit there and dictate to you exactly how to do if I don't know what's the underlying issues that's there. And I think for me, what I find what's lacking is management either basically are threatened by their roles, so they're not being open and transparent with the board, and I think they need to do that quite intensely. Is where management needs to start being more open, because the transparency is very important in this business. Because if you know there's a problem coming, you better be aware of it.
So, lessons learned. Okay. Lessons learned from, Eubank, the signature products company, to today. What have you taken with you from these two different experiences, where you moved from chairing the board to running the company?
Yeah. So I think so. The difference is, again, if I split and what's interesting is in these two particular examples, it's you got the one which is a corporate bank. It's regulated, and it's very corporatized, whereas the cosmetic business was very much a family-run own business, which basically you could see governance was very weak, controls were very weak. Okay. But I think that the takeout for me is around, don't be afraid to basically, don't be penny wise, pound foolish. I think it's important to hire correctly. If you've got the right people, because the point is we try and get away by paying cheaply. Okay. And I think that comes back
both
to bite
executives and board.
Executives and board, yeah. So it's very much around. I think the fact is that you got to have the right people, because the fact is these things in a way pays off itself over time. Okay, and the problem is it's making sure that you also incentivize the teams properly. So remuneration structures are key, because the problem is that for someone to run a business, and it takes a lot, because most executives, senior management, it's not a 9 to 5 type job. You working basically throughout any free moment. You're focusing, you're thinking, you're trying to strategize. So it's you're constantly on this treadmill.
Yeah, that's why on this platform we're trying to advocate work-life balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the work-life balance, again, and maybe I'm not too familiar with it. So, but the reality is that I think personally you're going to find that, because you can't only work as an individual. Okay?
Yeah, you need to leave
work. But I'm looking at it from a shareholder point of view, and if I employ the right person to run and look after my investment in that business, okay, I'm going to get a return. Okay, if I employ the wrong person because I'm being miserly. Okay, the fact is that this business is going to say, why? What happened? Or how did this business land up being what it is now? So if I look at, especially on the cosmetic side, it showed great growth, good profits, good revenue. But when you start drilling deeply into it, you understand that it's not there. It's basically a bit of window dressing. and its management were driven by because they weren't paid well enough and looking for other incentives and things to try and or maybe just the lack of interest because they feel they're doing too much for too little.
Yeah. So, I mean, Tebi, just to exit, maybe one or two questions, and then we'll ask Kesh to ask us a question or two based on his experience.
Okay, cool. I mean, you've worked across various industries, um, doing great things, but how do you switch off?
How do I switch off?
Yeah. How do you relax? How do you detach
Decompress.
from work?
Look, personally, I don't think I can because I'm wired that way where and it's because for me it's a driver. So because I enjoy it, I can't switch off. So even if I do take downtime and I love watching movies. Okay, so I enjoy it. And I mean, like, if I've watched series, now I'm getting into series and watching and I kind of relate and my mind will automatically go, oh, there's something there. Maybe you can take a learning out of that there. So I don't think you can totally switch off. I think, yeah, if you're doing a job you don't enjoy, you want to switch off. But if it's passionate, it's part of your DNA, it's very hard to switch off. So I can't really switch off, to the honest truth. I probably take downtime, and I think the only time I kind of maybe switch off is when I'm sleeping.
So, talking about sleep, I mean, how many hours of sleep do you do on that?
So look, I'm probably
You don't know?
get about no. I mean, I would say it varies. Depends what my next day looks like. So I can get, on average, I would think I probably get 6 hours of sleep. Okay.
6 hours.
And I get a relatively good sleep. I don't find that I'm up and about and there. I mean, obviously there are times where if something's bothering me that will disrupt my sleep. Yeah, no. On average, I'll get about 6 hours of sleep.
So you're a deep sleeper.
I'm a deep sleep, and it doesn't take me long to fall asleep.
Okay.
But that's another thing. I mean, the point is, I'll put my head down. I love music, so music is also a teacher because I'll fall asleep with music on. So I'll have the music in the background, and then hopefully I'll only leave it on if there's a timer because then it goes off, and then I'll say, if I had it in 15 or 20 minutes, I didn't even hear it go off. So they've obviously I fell asleep before the thing switched off itself.
This lullaby.
And I love R&B, so I'm old school music. So I love all the old stuff, the old music, and not it's traditionally English.
Favorite song?
Favorite song would probably be. I don't know. I don't know. That's a difficult one.
Babyface.
Huh? No. I mean, let me tell you, I'm a Earth, Wind and Fire, Kool and the Gang.
Kool and the Gang.
I'm basically Quincy Jones. I love a mix of jazz, Kenny G. So kind of, I think the music today, Babyface is good, but no. Mariah Carey's better. I love some of Mariah Carey's numbers. So, it's more the older stuff, which kind of, even the 60s, the Stylistics is actually one of my favorites music groups. So I love listening to the Stylistics. And I can listen to them over and over. So it's a variety of music. And so it's not Indian music. Well, you're going to ask me the next question. I'm not into Bollywood. So before you go there, let me close that door for you.
Yeah, with that, I think, do you have any questions for me and my favorite daughter?
No, so I'll say, what obviously this is your first podcast, right? But I mean, what would be interesting, have you watched any of your other dad's other podcasts? And what have you learned from those podcasts that you didn't know about him? Today you learned he can cook.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think.
Look, let me clarify.
No, the question was to her. I'm not asking.
I never said I can cook. I said we learned to do a lot of house chores, being a lot of boys in the family. So I clean better. I make beds better than cooking.
That is actually true. My dad actually does make a good bed. in the morning.
Okay, so do I. To an extent, I'm very meticulous. So neat, things need to be, and I can make a great bed. I don't know how, but that it must be no creases.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually watched a couple of the shows. I've done many, not many, but a couple actual interviews with him, and I've also watched them physically live. So it's been a good learning, I think, to understand how different businesses work. I think has been a really interesting
But you're not answering
thing.
my question.
What
I want to say what you learned. You said, what did you learn new about your father?
Oh, about my dad specifically.
Yeah.
No, it's that he highlighted that he used to do some chores and things like that. But also just I think in him starting this podcast, it was an interesting thing to know that it was interesting that wellness was top of mind for him.
Yeah.
Because he's also the type of person that likes to go, be busy with everything all the time. So it's interesting that it was an important topic for him to the point where he would do a podcast on it. Yeah.
So I think what amazes me about your dad is his story where he was a nurse.
Yeah.
Right? And how that transformation happened to where he was running top companies, right?
Yeah.
And multinationals. I mean, that's a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't picture you as a nurse looking at you.
I mean, before that,
you don't have the bedside manner. Maybe that's where you learn how to make a bed.
I did. I mean, the other thing that you don't already know about me is more from the nursing side. I think the skill that I learned was the social skills, the caring, and the connection with my children. I think I've got a very deep connection with both of them, and I think it's better than most parents in that. And it didn't just start now; it started when they were babies. Washing them. Washing a baby like head.
Yeah.
Holding that. It's
Like
some
compassion.
skill, but it also builds a lot of connection with them. Feeding them, changing the nappies, and all that. That connection is deep. So I mean, I can see you blanking out. You don't know how that looks like.
No.
So
no. But
that
it's interesting is whether the profession still has that, and whether people going into the profession today. Okay, I mean, like how would you say the nursing environment or the quality of people come have the same levels of compassion?
it's quite different. I mean, at the risk of sounding or getting in trouble is the children today are very rebellious in kind of following certain things. They question everything that things get dysfunctional.
Yeah.
When we got trained as a midwife, as a general nurse, it was almost like a military way, having to master certain fundamentals, and then they become part of you. That for me, having to wake up and make a bed at home, it's a second nature. When I look at them or my son, it's like moving a mountain. So and that you see in the new profession or professionals today. So with that, Kesh, thank you so much for making the time.
No.
And I told you you're going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And you didn't believe me.
When can I come back?
Yeah, we'll arrange for part 2.
Yeah, because I didn't get to say enough. But anyway.
Thanks, man.